Hello, encouragers. I'm Rebecca Scott, wife, mother of 4, author, and owner and designer of Rebecca Scott Designs. I'm here to encourage you, to make you feel the I can do this spirit each and every day of our awesome journeys to fulfill those many important roles. I believe we are fully equipped to execute, and I will provide you with as much knowledge and practices and systems as I can to help you understand just what I know you can do. Execute. We got this. Hello, encouragers. I have something super fun to share with you today, and something that I know will be memorable and that will help you moving forward in whatever it is you are working through in all of our different roles that we manage. Today on the podcast, I've invited my sister-in-law, Jenny Agers, to join us and talk about a new form of, therapy is not even the right word for it, but this is a tool that you can use to better your life, to help ease some of the past, and to give you momentum for the future. We are going to talk with Jenny about the draper method and a little bit about her story and why she decided it was worth the risk and the sacrifice and the time to decide to change the direction of her career. So welcome, Jenny.
Thank you.
Now, we always talk a little bit about our background because I think I counted. There's 9 little ones running around outside between Jenny's 4 and my 4, and of course a play date in the middle of this. And it's a Saturday morning because we are committed mamas. And I know that what Jenny has to share with us today, you desperately need to hear. And I'd like you to share this with anybody, share this podcast with anybody that you think this would help them out as well. So without further ado, Jenny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for this opportunity, Rebecca. It's such a pleasure to be able to share with our community and with your audience what horses can do to help balance the body and brain. And I grew up in a small town in Niobrara, Nebraska, and I grew up with a hard life, I guess you could say, very broken. And I experienced a lot of trauma myself, and I spent a good part of my adult life digging out of the pit that I was in, and very much in survival mode. When you experience those hard things, you don't have time to dream, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah.
You're really just trying to make it and go through the motions. So as I started digging out of that, I started finding who I was. And my whole hope was to help other people be able to dig out of the things that they thought was normal as well. You don't realize the life that you're living is so broken. And it's such a cycle of, you just based your whole future on past experiences that those memories are stored in the hippocampus, as I learned later, digging out of this, that you can only base your future on past experiences.
Oh.
When you have a good hamburger.
Oh, yeah. Memorable.
Right? You will always compare every other hamburger to that hamburger.
Amen. That's so true.
And so life is the same way.
Okay.
When you have an amazing vacation, you compare all of your other vacations to that one.
Yeah.
And so I had to break free of the bad that I experienced and start looking forward to the good and having a grateful heart for the experiences I went through because it gave me such strength.
Okay. So framing them in a different way allowed you to dream bigger.
Right. Right.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, a broken past, but horses have always played a part in your life.
Yes. Yes.
So how did that start? Who introduced you to horses?
My grandpa. I loved horses. My neighbors had horses and would take me riding occasionally. And I always idolized the girls in my class that were cowgirls and that this was their life and they got to do it. And my dad didn't have time for me. My mom passed away when I was 5. So I was raised by my father, and he worked 80 plus hours a week. And so we just kind of raised ourselves. And my grandpa said that I needed a horse. I'm getting choked up here.
Okay. Yep. All normal on the encourager, right?
But my grandpa said I needed a horse. I needed something to do. And so he took me to the sale barn and got me a horse. And that's when I just started feeling free in a way that I never did before. Because you can be vulnerable with a horse. You can share your heart and it goes nowhere.
Oh, okay.
When you have trauma, it's hard to share yourself with anyone because you feel like it's going to be used against you later down the road. Your trust is not there. And, I had siblings and we were always just fighting to be loved. And so you would put each other down to rise yourself up. And so this horse was my safe place. And I just started blossoming. And my grandma and grandpa couldn't believe the girl that I was becoming. And so I joined 4-H and I didn't have a trailer. So I would ride my horse to 4-H practice and ride it back and rain. And it was, again, 8:00 on a Saturday morning. And so it was dedication on my end, but waking yourself up and getting yourself there. But I loved it. And it didn't feel like work because I loved it. And I felt like I was part of something.
Yes.
So they were on the forefront of me. And then I went through a hard season of divorce and brokenness and thought that I was going to have to get rid of my horses again. And then you came.
Oh, well, it's not quite that simple, but I think that it's important to keep, when you take my master course, I talk a lot, and it's in my book as well. I talk a lot about your super skill, and it's where joy, compulsion, and skills converge. So for sure, your skill set is horses, and that's always played a part in your life. And even like you said, I thought I might not get able to keep my horses. And in the back of my brain, only because my sister-in-law, can I say this? I was like, bull, they have always played a part in your life. And of course they came about. And then Jenny married my brother after Nick and I introduced them, which is probably a story for another time. Horses were still playing a part of it. And so that I would bet is part of your super skill is that your compulsion is to always involve a horse in whatever the activity is, whether it's a birthday party, whether it's helping someone out or whatever it is. So the horses start playing a part. I go to the state fair in South Dakota here for 5 days. I'm across from Chris, who you guys have heard of on the podcast with the DTOM. Remember the draper method? That is where you use horses to help heal mental health. Now, Chris works extensively with veterans. And I just listening to him and listening to what the therapy can do for people is like, oh my gosh, Chris, this is amazing. And he's so generous and told me everything that he learned. And so I came home on fire with the Holy Spirit going, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It's horses and it's mental health, which Jenny is very passionate about because of your past and knowing how to want to help people. And you're currently, but moving out of massage therapy. So you're always helping people too as part of your compulsion. Like you cannot not help people, whether it's praying over them or spending time with them or showing them who Jesus is. It's just a compulsion for you to help people. So I thought these things are lining up. If I am just the very slight flag that says, Jenny, I think you need to check out this method. So then Jenny does and calls Chris and does all the work to find out what it would take in the education. And I'm speaking for Jenny right now, but she will definitely take over here. And the education was not cheap. Jenny has a blended family. So if you can imagine what the schedules are like for a blended family, she would be raising her hand. So it's a lot. So to take the education is 3 full weeks in Colorado. It's not even close. And they make the sacrifice and they make the commitment. And I want you to talk a little bit about what that looked like on a heart level when you find out, not necessarily the obstacles, but what is it going to take to get the draper method so you can do what you want to do?
Yes. So very grateful for your coming in contact with Chris. You know, it's one of those things that there's no such thing as coincidence.
Right. 100%.
I was struggling with my own son, had gone through a divorce and his anxiety was through the roof. He had lost half of his head of hair. His eyebrows were gone. And when I looked into this and talked to Chris, and I was like, this is exactly what my son is going through. I need to get him on the back of a horse. And then we started looking at the cost of what it would take to become certified. And it was just a no-brainer. Like, Josh, we got to do this. Like, if we can just help our friends and family, like, that's what we got to do. So we spent a lot of time just bathing that whole situation in prayer and lifting it up and financially not knowing how we're going to do it. But we set a date and we said, March, we're going to make this work. And financially, the blessings came in. Surprisingly, we had no idea. These people just wanted to reach out and invest in our dreams, which was for me as a broken heart. took me back because no one really invested in me and I didn't feel worthy of it. So that was a confirmation I needed. Jenny, go after this. So the sacrifice then was leaving my kids for 3 weeks. I've never left. I mean, a lot of you, I'm sure, can testify, never leaving your kids for that long.
Yeah.
And then they are in blended families as well. And just the communication. And the Lord knew I needed that time more than I knew I needed that time. And I was gone for 3 weeks, and spending time with God and horses transformed my soul. And I didn't know who I was if I wasn't serving people and loving people. And so the first week I spent just crying. And then I realized it was just neutralizing that stress on the back of the horse from the trauma that I experienced way from a child. So I was reliving years of hurt that I had gone through and starting to process and bring that, so that's the beauty of Draper Sensory Therapy, is that you don't have to have a trauma situation in your life, that it can be someone who's overtaxed. It can be someone who, maybe just struggles with sleep situations, and you're balancing the brain and getting them out of that beta brainwave and bringing them into the alpha state.
So let's talk a little bit more about the details of this, because I had Chris break it down to us on his podcast as well. And it's fascinating, but I think we need to even break it down because the way that Jenny explains it is just so applicable. So you get on a horse, but you don't just get on the horse. So talk about when someone comes to you, whether it is post-traumatic stress disorder, indecision, control issues, whatever it might be. So I just want to emphasize this does not have to be a trauma-based therapy. This can just be all therapies, which I highly endorse, all kinds of alternative therapies, which I find out a lot between Josh and Jenny and I. It's like, what's the latest of how to help people? So tell us what happens when someone comes to you. You put them, how do you place them on the horse? And then tell us what the brain does.
Yes. So when people come to us, they are stuck in that fight or flight zone. So they're not able to get to the prefrontal cortex of their brain. So traditional therapies assume that they can make rational, logical decisions with the information that they're given.
Okay.
These individuals just can't get there. And so we put them on the back of a horse backwards.
Yeah. So hear that.
Yeah. Yes.
Backwards.
And the beauty is you don't have to know how to ride a horse. People are saying, I have no horse experience. It does not matter. So, and our horses are specifically trained for this. Horses move off of pressure. But these horses will tolerate you spinning around them, laying on them, and they love it. They have servant's hearts as well, I say. So you get on the horse backwards, and we turn you into a slow trot. And that trot is what neutralizes the stress in the brain. Okay. And then as you're riding, I'm watching you. Are you falling forward, side to side, back? And I can tell what part of the brains are tired and weak and not connecting. So then I do specific drills to help connect those neural pathways.
Okay. So it's so fascinating. Again, I have received therapy. Several of my family members are. So don't be intimidated by this. My mom, who's not gotten a horse on 30 years, did it. So that says something right there. For lack of a better term, but just this is what my brain does when I visualize this. The trot bounces, which is not the right word, the brain into a neutralizing position so that what?
So the cortisol can be lifted off of the prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
And your prefrontal cortex is where you make all your logical decisions.
Okay.
When there's stress or indecision, anything, it's covered. You're not able to get to it. So that cortisol gets lifted off that prefrontal cortex. You can then focus, reason, and remember in a way that you couldn't before. So that's why traditional therapies, talk therapies, mentorship, things like that see substantial changes because they can now focus, reason, and remember in a way they couldn't.
After the Draper method.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent whenever I talk about the Draper method, whether it's endorsing you or endorsing Chris, is that regular therapies are still very important to everybody. Very important, whether it's medication or talk therapy or emotional therapy, whatever it is. But first, have the Draper method because, like you said, it balances the brain. So then you can receive the reasoning. What was the other word you used?
Reasoning, remembering.
And execution, I would assume as well, because until you bounce it into the right place, till you get your brain neutralized to receive this, you will follow down the same pathway every time, right. Which I think what happened with Philip is the only way he knew how to deal with his high anxiety was to drink alcohol. Well, so then he would white knuckle it, meaning he would try so hard to get sober, but he would follow the same pathway because he could not get beyond, this is how I solve this problem.
Right. Yep. And that's the beauty of this is we don't need to know what your past experiences are. Mm-hmm. As my husband would say, we don't need to know how the tire got flat. We don't back down the road looking for the nails. We just fix the flat tire. And so we take you from where you are. We put you on the horse. I'll share with you the things that I see, the areas of the brain that gets tired, and we'll start connecting left and right brain hemisphere, giving you drills. And the biggest thing I tell my people is you're not broken. You just got underdeveloped areas of your brain, just like your body. When you're working out, you got some areas that aren't developed like the other. You have a stronger right side than the left side, whatever it might be. Your brain is no different. And if I could just stress to anyone, we spend so much time fixing the outside of our bodies. We do Botox, we do makeup, we do our hair. Yeah. But we spend very little time fixing the inside. And the inside is what we all struggle with. Yep. The outside is not our struggle. And so that's the beauty of this, is that it really focuses on the inside and balancing body and brain and helping them to work together.
Yes. I talk frequently about my me system in the podcast, and that's what you're talking about. But your me system isn't just the outside. We need to work on the inside, knowing thyself. And so when you are struggling with something that you continue to do this pattern, this crazy cycle, this Draper method would help you come up with a different method. But like Jenny said, if she could stress anything, I would stress this. When she or Josh is working with a client, you don't make them say, you don't sit them down and say, what's your background and why are you here? None of that happens. Right. Now, they may naturally be somebody who's like, I'm here because of XYZ, but that's not a prerequisite. Right. It is sit on the back of this horse. You watch their methods, then you do drills based on how they are moving on the back of that horse to free up that area to again establish a new path of how to move forward. And then afterwards, because Jenny is highly spiritual and a definite woman of God, you usually pray over them. Now, I'm assuming that you also watch for their level of comfort. It may be that, Jenny, I know you spend prayer the whole time you're doing the therapy. And it may be that you pray out loud with them afterwards, or maybe not. Because I'm thinking of those of you that are listening. This is the most non-evasive therapy you can receive for your uncle that just will not open up about what happened. Or your mother that won't open up about it happened. Or your cousin or your roommate that had a tragedy and they won't open up to anybody. This would be the method to just start them to open up to it, and they can talk about it as much as they want or don't want, and then they can go ahead and receive other therapies as well.
Absolutely. And I'm working with a young individual who was in a very traumatic accident and lost her mother, and she just won't talk about it. And that's another, you fight, flight, or freeze. Okay. Well, she freezes, and her brain is just trying to protect her because she was surviving through all of that. And this is working. You know, it's working. And that's the amazing part of this, is that what do you have to lose? You get to come and spend some time with a horse, and it's very enjoyable. And a lot of time the individuals don't even realize that it's therapy because it's just so fun.
Yeah, and it's 20 to 45 minutes for one session.
Right.
And you guys recommend 10 sessions, correct?
Yeah, mental health, usually about 10 sessions. Neurological issues can be, 16 to 24, depending on the condition.
You would know that with how severe their movements are.
Right. Well, and the parents and the family members, the foster parent, whatever, they will know. They will see a change. I get to see them for, an hour once every couple weeks or whatever, but the real changes are at home. And we've seen that just within our own son. Yes. And he's experiencing joy. He was always the kid that just, life was hard. Getting out of bed, finding joy in anything, it was very difficult. I'd ask him to put his shoes away and he would just blow up and, why do I have to do everything? And now he's joyful. And so it's
the miracles in your own family.
It is.
Can you tell us a few other examples of some of the turnaround you've seen with your clients?
Oh, yeah. I have this young boy who didn't start walking until he was 2. The umbilical cord was around his neck. And so just development delays.
Mm-hmm.
And as they get up on the horse, I'm watching them. Can they jump up? What is their frequency, sequencing, all of that? Okay. And now he can come and jump up on the horse with very little assistance. And
how old is he now?
He is 11.
Okay.
And his demeanor, he walks in proud. He's wearing his cowboy boot and his hats, and he's just so respectful. How can I help? And really just struggled with behavioral issues at home and blowing up. And again, he experienced a lot of trauma. His dad passed away and developmental delays. I mean, life happens. You just, everyone has situations, and that's just it. You don't need to be really, really broken and go through hard experiences for this stuff to work. It just balances body and brain in a way that you can focus, reason, and remember where you couldn't before.
I think we also have to say, isn't, you mentioned a phrase, horses are like that too, the freeze.
Fight, flight, freeze.
Isn't that a horse's mental ability as well?
Right. So, and that is where the horses are looking to you. Can they trust you? Can they rely on you to give them the proper cues? And so we do a lot of parallels with the horses and the kids as well. And so when kiddos aren't really wanting to talk, they might open up with the horse more than they will us. And that's not the kind of therapy I do, but it just happens. It just happens. Okay. And so we just roll with whatever the Lord has put on our plate that day. And maybe they won't even get on a horse. And we're just building that relationship to, later get on the horse. It's
okay. And a couple of things too. I want to chat through. There was a miracle that happened within you getting ready for this trip and trusting, okay, I'm going to plan the dates for this trip and I'm going. Didn't have the horses. I mean, you have plenty of horses, but it takes a certain horse, and only 20% of horses have this certain gait.
Rhythm. Yeah.
Have this certain rhythm. So Terry, your advisor, said, the most difficult part will be going home. It won't be getting clients because this is miracle therapy. It will be finding the right horse. And then, of course, the expense of a horse that has this rhythm, right? So she brings out these 2 horses. This is how God works. Brings out. So awesome. I'm gonna tell a little bit of it for you.
Yes,
of course,
please do.
But I love that she takes out these 2 horses because Jenny has I love you use the word crabby. She had a crabby shoulder, so a sore shoulder. So she couldn't take her gorgeous Xena because she's too tall. And so she takes out these 2, I called them bum horses because you just picked them up from this lady who said, I just want them loved on. Yeah. 2 horses. And you take them out for the training because you can do the therapy on them better because of your shoulder. They're a little bit shorter. Now, you need to take 2 horses because it does exhaust 1 horse, correct?
No, I was taking the 1 horse, hopeful that she had the motion. But I was taking the other as a traveling companion because I didn't want her to travel alone. We're going to Colorado and...
It's a long time without a buddy.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So, and then to back it up a little bit, Josh and Jenny had prayed over the year that they have a double blessing. That was the word that they used for the year, double blessing, which is always good. But P.S., we used that word one year. We got 6 sets of twins in our calves. Okay. And we didn't pick it. A spiritual advisor in our life said, I see the word double. And Nick was fearful that it would be me with twins, but it was our calves. Anyway, so you take these horses out there. Terry is working with them, and then unfold for us what happens.
Yeah. I get, again, choked up thinking of how God has worked. You start by taking these horses in the round pen to see if they have this specific movement. And he said, I really think this one has it. We're going to have to work at it and see. So we bring the second one, Sweetie, who's the traveling companion. And he says, well, we're going to try them both. Sweetie puts her head down and she has this movement first time looking. And he goes, yep, she's going to work. And I was just like, yes, I have a horse,
Yes.
And then 2 days later, he said, Jenny, you have 2 horses. They both have the rhythm. And he's like, you have better horses than I do right now. Because his beloved Bingo had passed away from colic in April. And he said, these horses, you're going to go back to South Dakota and you're going to start working right away. And we did just that because...
And I think this goes down to trusting. Sometimes the order of what you want to do is not what society will tell you.
Yes.
So, you have to save up all the money and then you're going to go and then this. But there was certain things that you committed to. You were not going to go in debt. for this. And so that was the pouring out of family and friends without you asking. This was people believing in you and showing you from your past that, no, we're going to love on you. Let us do this. The horses line up because God just sees that possible. And so you being very intentional about, God, this is what I want. The rest of it showed up. There was still hard work involved and sacrifice involved. You had to leave your kids for 3 weeks. You had to leave your marriage, your fresh, newlywed marriage. Like there was still sacrifices involved, but you allowed yourself to be intentional and tell God, this is the desire of my heart, and things lined up for you.
Well, God has just been so good to me through all of the trauma that I went through. And I've just seen him show up time and time again. And I had no doubt that he would do it. And he has. When I got certified, my husband and I, we live in town. Our horses are out here with you guys. I didn't know where I was going to work. And I still don't know. But I was in a Bible study and they said, any prayer requests? I said, yeah, I need a place to work. They said, oh, I have a friend in Edgerton, Minnesota. And just like that, we started trailering horses over there. And we've been given people hope and healing since then. And it's been a blessing, but we're still holding everything with an open hand, and our heart is in the city of Brandon, we're blended family. That's where our kids' family, that's where we want to be. And so we know that when the time is right, the Lord will open a door for a property. And we're just, again, going through all the hard work and the sacrifices of trailering up each week and driving 45 minutes and working in a facility. But God has blessed us abundantly with friends and connections in a way that you just can't make up.
No, it's amazing. Jenny, how do the listeners receive your therapy? What is the easiest way to get a hold of you and to start this?
Right. So we are so new. The only social media platform we have right now is Facebook. Okay. And so you can connect with us on Facebook, send us a private message, and we'll reach out to you there.
And you named your business?
Horseback Miracles at 605 Roots.
Okay.
And the reason it's Horseback Miracles is because the founder, Terry, said it's a miracle that he found this rhythm in horses to bring healing. And he was a mechanical engineer, and so he needed the proof. So he has the EEG machine you put on and, pre-ride and post-ride, and you can see the difference. And on my Facebook page, you can see those brain scans of my son and other veterans and things like that we've worked with.
Yeah, I love this. That this is, it could sound oogly googly and above, but the machine backs up like this is what's actually going on with your brain.
Right.
And so you get real proof for, especially for these listeners who people are skeptical of therapy. Here's the hard truth of what it can do. And then the spiritual side comes alongside of it and loves on them. But if, just get this message out to whoever needs to hear it, and especially for yourself, check out 605 Roots on Facebook. We will put all the links within our show notes, and make sure that you start booking now and that you share this podcast with anybody else that it can help. Is there anything else you'd like to encourage your listeners with, Jenny?
I think, like I said before, is just focus on the inside of you. We put so much emphasis on the outside of our body and what the world thinks of us, but the inside is what matters. You can take all the vitamins and water that you need, but if your head and heart aren't connected, you're still not healthy. And that's the hardest 12 inches to connect is the head and heart.
Yes. And again, what I would emphasize first is this needs to be your first form of therapy. Then absolutely continue with your medications and your talk therapies and your emotional, whatever that might be. But please consider doing the draper method first so that your brain can receive all the other awesome therapy you're seeking out.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I can't get over how often I love to hear your story and that you are trusting and following God in doing exactly your super skill. And for you especially, I know it's not about the money, it's about helping people. Yes. And so I know the two of them are going to be married, and you and Josh are going to have an amazing ministry moving forward. Love you, sis. Until next time, encouragers, we got this. I know how you can start executing on all the things that God has equipped you to do. You can pick up my book at theencouragerpodcast.com and check out the store complete with book, journal, and the master course. Also, make sure to check out the resources tab where you'll get a hold of all the PDFs from the podcast. Thank you for tuning in, encouragers. Remember to subscribe so it's automatically on your phone. And please rate and review me. We got this, encouragers.